In this lesson, I'm going to show you a complete study. Using all the techniques we've learnt, I'm going to work it how I would work if I was doing it as a commission, which is top left to bottom right, so that I don't smudge it with my hand and I don't have to mess about with a piece of paper, like in the lily example. So basically I'm just going to start with this top background section with a mixture of a warm grey and a cool grey. I'm working with Prismacolor pencils on Bristol board. Just as and when I need to use any of the techniques, I'll be telling you about them as we go. I haven't exactly made up my mind where I'm going to use everything yet, and that's how I would work as well if I was doing it as a proper commission. I just would use things as and when I felt they were needed. So I'm just going to start off in this top corner with the warm grey first of all. You can see the focus of the camera. You can see that the camera has been focused on this area that's in focus and sharp, and this background is quite blurry, so we're going to replicate that just by keeping everything quite loose and sort of smudgy. We need it to try and aim for a sort of smudgy effect. So I'm just going to erase some of these hard lines. I can only just see them, and we're going to make sure there's no hard edges so that it looks nice and out of focus. And this might be a slightly different way of working to anything I've shown you before, starting in the top left and working down, but it's only a simple background, so getting to that kind of point and then stopping, we know that the same way we're going to work when we come round here, so just a little bit different way of thinking, that you're not filling in all the same colour in one go. Just going to darken into this corner. Obviously, if you're left-handed, you'd need to work, and you want it to work in this way, you need to work top right to bottom left. I'm just going to bring in one of the colours I'm going to be using in the main picture. This is yellow ochre. Sometimes when I'm working like this, I might make a note of the colours I was using as I went along on a certain place if I do have to break it up into sections. So, like for this one, I usually do it by the numbers. This is 1072, and I'd write them down in the order that I did the layers, just so that then every subsequent piece of that background looks the same. I'm going to take that colour, let it go into those lovely crispy leaves. This picture is of physalis fruit, those gorgeous, sweet, tangy fruits with lovely papery cases that they have around them. And this is a nice cool grey. Just building up the layers really gradually, but I'm not doing them too carefully. This is quite a scrappy hatching stroke I'm using, because like I said, we want a nice blurred effect, so we want some of the white of the paper still to show through, so keeping it really loose. It's going to come back in with that dark warm grey. Just realised I've lost part of my drawing. I'm going to take it back out. Got a bit of a darker cool grey here. I'm just alternating between the warm one and the cool one. I don't want to make it too much more now because I can always come in and just tonally adjust it later. So now I'm going to go back to that nice yellow ochre colour and start to get some variety of tone in here. Again, keeping it really loose because we want it to appear blurred. Just going to take some of these edges out, graphite. And you can see I'm extending the yellow colour up into the background a bit. And just here it's starting to come into focus, so I'm making a definite line there, but as it blends into the background there, it's still going to be blurry. I'm fetching a bit of a brighter yellow now, and just use a light layer of this. It's canary yellow. And work at the same time with light umber. I'm fixing my dark and light values with those two colours. So you can see how when I'm coming into this area of sharp focus, I've changed my hatching technique there. I'm using more on the point, less on the edge of the tip of the pencil. And then this area down here is still soft focus, so just something as little as the angle you pencils at can change that stroke like that for you. I'm going to fetch in an orangey colour. This is goldenrod. Don't know if you could hear that then when I first put the pencil there. That scratching noise. Sometimes even these nice creamy leads get a little inclusion in them. You just have to turn the lead. It's like some tiny little particle of some sort of mineral or something that gets in there. I'm going to fetch in a green as well. This is chartreuse. Back to goldenrod. Back to yellow ochre. Actually, no, I think I want canary yellow. Light umber again. I'm just going to bring in a darker green, this is olive green, to adjust the colour on here. And then I'm going to go bring down this background to meet the edge of that husk. I think I'll just leave it there for now, and then we'll start to introduce some of this sharper focus stuff, and then we can go make corrections to it later. So that's the basic husks, blurry husks in the background drawn up. I'm going to just now use the dark warm grey and purple just to bring out these little shadow areas to make this front portion start to pop out, so we can work on this nice sharply focused area. I'm just going to, like I said before, work top left to bottom right, so as soon as I feel that I'm getting to a point where I need to do this background, I'll be jumping up there just so that the whole thing is going left to right diagonally. Okay, so I'm just going to work into these areas behind here. Now we're into a nice sharply focused bit, so it's just the usual pencil techniques, apart from this little bit that's still a bit smudgy. The more you practice at pencil work, the more it just becomes, see how I don't even think about that when I'm moving between an area of one type of stroke to another. My hand just moves into it. That's just because I have so much practice at doing it. I just put a little introduction to remind me for that background, but I'm not going to work the background up yet. Just the sort of defining lines that I need. You probably can't tell from the camera, but these husks are very fuzzy. Got little tiny fine hairs, as has the stem, but I'm not going to draw those in at all. I'm not going to worry about them at all. I'm going to take the grey right up to the edge of the leaf, and we're going to put those in right at the last minute with a scalpel. I am still just there. There's tiny hairs, but then there's also an area of light, reflected light on the edge of the stem, so I'm going to take that into account. But anything that's kind of fuzzy and furry I'm leaving right up to the edge. Like I said, alternating with this purple. And a touch of indigo. So now I'm going to just start to work on these nice crispy focus husks. Same thing as before, just a background colour of yellow ochre. Actually, I think it's going to help us to get that little ridge drawn in something dark. While I've got that colour in my hand, I'll just take the opportunity to bring that down a bit as well. I'm just going to switch to canary yellow. Some of that nice chartreuse green. And again, I think that dark line there will just help for us to know where we are with it. See, because now I've got this dark grey in my hand, it's just a natural thing there to see that this bit needs to be dark as well, so we may as well put that in. I'm going to use the light umber. I'm going to take the purple now and And really start to make these dark areas help us bring this crisp area forward. And this is that light umber again. I'm just going to take some of this white edge off. Add some more yellow tones in there, I think. Perhaps canary. I'm just noticing that the area I'm on is starting to be where my edge of my hand is going to be resting, so I am going to jump up there now and just put in that background. So using the same order of the colours that we did before, just to keep it consistent. It doesn't really matter when you've got that many layers, it won't matter if you mix them up a bit. But it just helps to know how much of each one you've put on. So you see, before I can bring this any further down, I need to just finish off where we left this pod. Otherwise that's going to get all smudged as well. I'm swapping about between goldenrod and yellow ochre and umber there. This is sienna brown. I'm just going to make this a bit of a reddish tone in there. Okay, I'm back to that filling in the background, I think, now. The thing about the background as well, I really do, if you're doing it in sections like this, you need to make sure that you get to a convenient cut-off point. Otherwise, sometimes you can end up being able to see the hatching marks. It doesn't matter so much on this because it's a blurry background, so we're keeping it loose, but if you were doing a more subtly shaded background, it would be more important to do that. Of course, the background here is lighter than it was up there, so we're not going to be using as many coats, as many glazes of colour. So we've got a bit of texture coming in on this slate. So this bottom bit down here, I'm just going to leave probably just with this one coat on for now. And just make this top bit match the other side. So I'm just going to work up this papery husk now, and then I'm going to concentrate on one of the physalis fruit. I'm going to use a different technique on each one. This one has got lots of nice deep tones, and I've had a little test around this morning just to make sure that the colours would work with the mineral spirit, and the deeper ones work the best. So I'm going to use the mineral spirit on that one, and then do different techniques on these. So I'm just going to finish off now working up the veins and the texture on these papery husks, and then we'll concentrate on the physalis at the back. So this is goldenrod. I'm just going to take a very light layer onto this fruit, paying attention to these highlights. They're quite large on the scale I'm working, so I don't need to use the embossing tool really. I think I can remember where they are. I'm just going to take some dark green into this shadow just so that I can tell what tones I'm working with in the fruit better. Get this down to the depth of shadow it needs to be. So I'm going to come in with some indigo. And then some purple just to make it so the colour's right. Let's try dark grey. And some orange on it. In this reflected light there. I'm just going to make a nice glaze of canary yellow over this fruit now. Everywhere apart from that little white highlight. Then Spanish orange, just layering up. I can see the subtle differences in colour and tone created by the reflections in it. Might be hard for the camera to pick up. And then some orange. And then I just need to bring down the tone of this one now, work on this little husk. This is yellow ochre. And canary yellow. Tiny bit of chartreuse. Goldenrod. going to put in those dark markings. Like little veins. White umber. Just back in with canary yellow now to brighten up some of these areas. And goldenrod again. White umber. That looks alright for me to continue now on my fruit. So we're on orange. I think we'll go now to a red, very lightly. Take a bit of Scotch tape, just pull out that area that I've lost a little bit. And then a very, very, very light layer of violet. Just really down in these shadows. A bit of sienna brown. And light umber just to take the tone down on this shadowed side. Some more red. Tiny bit more orange, and then I'm going to be doing the OMS wash just to try and smooth out all this textured sketching I've been doing on it. So just with my cotton bud, just lightly dipped into the spirit. I'm using Zest-It again. And then just using really light dabbing strokes, I'm going to blend, starting in the darkest areas. I think it's just about how I want it. I'm going to let that dry now.